Listen, live streaming and producing video content is no easy task. It can be even more difficult when you're doing it for the first time, and it's especially difficult for those pastors and leaders that actually have to be in front of the camera right now, and this is not something they're used to doing. Listen, I'm going to give you 3 steps in this video that are going to help you lessen the amount of anxiety that you may be experiencing right now during this coronavirus pandemic. Let's get into it. Hey, what's going on, family? Thanks for watching. My name is Walter Jennette, founder and creative director of Create Church, where I show you how to create church wherever you are. Listen, if this is your first time tuning in, first of all, let me say thank you. If you find this information beneficial, definitely feel free to click that subscribe button and also click the bell notification so that you can be notified every single time that I post new content to the channel. All right. Now, for today's video, I'm actually going to name this. If I had to title it, let's pretend we're in church. If I had to give this a topic, I'm going to call this Preaching to Empty Chairs. And the reason I'm going to call it that is because that is the reality for most, if not everybody, not just in America, but across the world right now. As you know, coronavirus has definitely changed all of our lives, and this pandemic has created I don't want to necessarily say a new normal, because I'm hoping, and it is my belief, that, this too shall pass. However, it's created an opportunity that I think we need to embrace. And actually, for those of us who haven't been doing, online ministry, e-church, online church, whatever it is that you want to call it, here's an opportunity for you to actually embrace that and now incorporate it as part of your new normal facilitation of services, or the things that you do inside a physical building each and every week, each and every Sunday, or whether you have midweek service or not. All right. One of the things that I'm noticing, whether it is that people are live streaming or whether it is that people are pre-recording their videos and then editing them later and then uploading, to Premiere through Facebook or YouTube, is the level of anxiety that pastors and leaders are experiencing. Listen, this transition has literally turned pastors into YouTubers, and you can probably look at their playlist, and now they're just looking at videos every day, trying to figure out, how is it, that people can sit in front of a camera, they can sit in front of a microphone, and they can do this with ease. Let me be the first to tell you that it's not easy, okay? I know a lot of us have the ability to make it look easy because it's something that we actually practice. It's something that we actually do every day, all right? So again, one of the things that I encourage you to do is, during this time, rely on the mission and not so much on the method. See, the thing is, for many of you, for most of you, this is not your first time preaching. This is not your first time teaching. This is not your first time having to converse, having to engage. But the method is actually changing. And that's what's frightening a lot of people, because we're so used to being on a stage, being on a platform, preaching to people that are in physical chairs that we can see. But because of the pandemic, that is no longer the case, and we're having to preach to empty chairs. But, let's go down memory lane for a second. Remember when you were a kid, if you were like me, if you were a kid, maybe you played church, and, maybe it was you and a cousin or a sibling, and it was just a couple of you, and you were the preacher, and they were the mother, the deacon, the trustee, or somebody was in the choir. And the thing was, the only audience you had was either your parents, if they allowed you to play church. Some of them thought it was cute. If you grew up in a household like me, we didn't play that. Playing church is not an option. So you probably use like a G.I. Joe, Barbie, maybe some stuffed animals. That was probably your choir or your audience. Well, the thing about it is that we need to get back to that youthfulness, to where we were fearless, to where it didn't faze us. It didn't matter whether there was one person in the room or whether there was 5,000 people in the room. And again, I think we have an opportunity here to recalibrate, the way that we recalibrate our methodology, so to speak, as far as the way that we approach things. And this gives us an opportunity to say, okay, come off the stage, come off the platform, and let me be able to engage with you and talk to you in a way that I never have before. Now, again, there are people that are on both sides of the argument. Whether or not it's necessary to even do the transition, whether or not it's necessary, to stay at home, whether e-church or online church even is a thing, whether it's biblical, scriptural. That's not the purpose of this video. I'm not here to get into that. But I am here to provide a reference point and some context for those people who are trying to make the transition and finding it difficult to really connect with your audience in the same way through a camera lens that you see me looking at right now versus somebody physically sitting right in front of you. So I got 3 tips that I'm going to give you that I believe will actually help you. All right, let's get into it. All right, so tip number 1, practice by talking to yourself. Now listen, I know a lot of people are like, wait a minute, talk to yourself. Yes, absolutely. Talk to yourself. And here's the thing. If you're a preacher or a pastor or a teacher, this is something that you probably already do, have been doing it ever since you got started, but you haven't necessarily been doing it intentionally. When I first got started creating content for YouTube, creating podcasts, one of the things that helped me is always talking to myself. Okay. So I would always practice. I would always rehearse as if I was in an interview. So one of the things that I would do a lot of times, most of my ideas come to me when I'm in the car or in my quiet time. And so when I would read an article or read a blog post or I see a video, what I would do if I'd go for a ride or something like that, I'd actually turn on the camera on the phone, or I'd actually turn on the voice recording app on the phone, and I would sit there and I would have a conversation with myself. And literally, this is something that I would do 2 to 3 times throughout the day, definitely every single day. One of the things that does is it gets you used to not only seeing yourself, but it gets you comfortable with hearing yourself. One of the things that I recognize is that a lot of people don't like the way they look on camera. A lot of people don't like the way that they sound when they're on a microphone. So you have to, first of all, overcome that level of fear and overcome that level of anxiety. So in your preparation time, you're probably already talking to yourself. You're probably already saying some things out loud. That is a good practice. It does not mean that you're crazy. It does not mean that you're cuckoo. And that's not a word that I like to throw around loosely anyway. But it does not mean that something is wrong with you. It means that you take what you do very seriously. And in the same way, if you were memorizing song lyrics, if you were trying to memorize a script for a play or a presentation, if you were trying to memorize a speech, there's a difference when you can hear yourself say it instead of when you just think it in your mind. Okay. All right. Again, I told y'all this is not me preaching today, but just take that into consideration. Practice by talking out loud. Get used to seeing yourself, get used to hearing yourself. Practice by talking to yourself out loud. That's tip number 1. All right. Tip number 2, increase your frequency and decrease your duration. All right. I'm going to say that again. Increase your frequency and decrease your duration. Increase the amount of times that you're actually going live or producing content, producing video, and lessen the amount of time that you spend preaching, teaching, talking, and engaging. Why is that important? On the increasing frequency side, this goes back to practice. The more often you do something, the more comfortable that you're going to be with it. Now, one of the things that I know that is a struggle for some pastors and some preachers, some teachers, is time. Time is a big thing, especially for those of you who don't have large churches with large budgets, with large staff, and you have a lot of other people that can just focus on the, the day-to-day logistical things that you need to have happen. And you can solely focus, on sermon preparation, Sunday to Sunday, whether you had midweek service or not. Time has always been an issue. Well, guess what? It doesn't necessarily mean that the amount of time that you have has increased. For a lot of people, the amount of work has actually increased, but you have more downtime than you had before because you're restricted. So, a pastor's work, a lot of it is mobile. A lot of it is moving. Well, right now we're not able to go anywhere. So there are a lot of people that are sitting home. There are a lot of people Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that are restricted to their homes, literally not just 8 hours a day, but all day long. Other than the 8 hours that they're asleep, you're talking about 16 other hours that they probably are up. And those are 16 hours that you have an opportunity to speak to them. Those are 16 hours that for some people, they are literally about to lose their minds. Some people, it was all great. The first couple of weeks, hey, I got a little vacation. I got a break. I get to spend time with my family. I get to spend time with my dog. Now you see a lot of anxiety and pressure and depression and stress starting to build up with people. Here's an opportunity where you can get into those cracks and crevices by increasing the amount of time that you spend with your congregation, with your audience. And here's an opportunity for you to even, for some of you larger ministries that don't have a small group culture, here's an opportunity for you to break that up. So let's say you have your typical service on Sunday. Average service probably lasts between an hour and 2 hours. I can tell you right now, nobody is going to watch an hour or a 2-hour live stream or in video. That's absolutely ridiculous. So if your service is usually an hour to 2 hours, if your sermon is usually, let's say 30 minutes on the nice side, you need to right now cut that in half. All right, make that 15 minutes. And while you're decreasing the duration, so when you take that 30 minutes, you cut it in half to 15 minutes, increase your frequency and spend more time throughout the week. So you preach Sunday, you can come back even Monday or Tuesday. Let's do small group, or let's do kind of like a Bible study. Let's follow up Wednesday. Let's follow up Thursday, especially for those of you that have multiple ministry. You have women's ministries, men's ministry, college ministry, senior ministry, youth ministry. This gives you an opportunity to, again, get into those cracks and crevices where people are just spending all day scrolling on their phones, and there could be an opportunity for you to speak a word into their life. Okay, so that's tip number 2, increase your frequency and decrease your duration. All right. Tip number 3, remove the distraction. Okay, remove the distraction. So here's a big thing. There's a big argument going on right now about whether it's better for you to deliver, record, go live as you normally would from your sanctuary, or whether you should do it more so in the comfort of your home. It is my opinion that it is better to do this from the comfort of your home. Now, I do understand that there is something to be said, that there is something special about seeing your church, about seeing the sanctuary. Mentally, it does something. There's a level of nostalgia to it. That was cool for the first, second, third week. That was cool for Easter. That has gone. And that nostalgia has worn off. Now, there are some that will disagree with that. In my opinion, that nostalgia has gone. People are stuck in the house. And the thing about it, if you believe that you being inside the church is going to help encourage people, to make them want to come out to church, then by all means do that. I'm going to speak to that in a second as well. But it is my opinion and my belief that the best thing you can do right now is not I don't want to say conform, but allow yourself to be comfortable so that you can help ease the level of anxiety and the level of stress that you might actually be experiencing, from having to go live for the first time or having to record videos, so whether that's in your home office, whether that's in your, on your couch at home, whether that's in your kitchen, wherever it is that you probably normally do your study time, if that's in the car, I think it would be so much better for you to go in the places where you normally spend your time with God, where you normally spend time in preparation, and allow that to be the space where you speak to your congregation. Number one, there probably aren't any distractions around anyway, because you remove all of those distractions when you're trying to prepare and when you're trying to hear from God and when you're trying to get, that sermon down, that message down, whatever it is that you need to deliver, that lesson, for that day or for that week. Okay. And for those of you that are still in the church, you have to remove the distraction of the empty chairs. Empty chairs are a distraction. Okay. So what you want to do, let's say you're in somewhat of a, middle to large size church. Chances are your cameras, if you're on the stage, your cameras are probably at least 50 feet away from you at minimum. And some churches, it can be, upwards of 100 or 200 feet, but they're at least probably, I say, let's just be nice and say 25 to 50 feet away from you. So all you see is an empty auditorium and an empty congregation. Before you even, look, your peripheral outweighs your focus. So all you have is this little lens, okay? All I'm able to see right now is this little lens. If I was in a huge sanctuary, if I was in a huge, room full of empty chairs, the empty chairs would actually outweigh the camera that I'm looking at. And for a lot of people, that increases the level of anxiety and it increases the level of pressure because it's like, yo, all I see is empty chairs. I'm talking about belief. I'm talking about faith. You know, we just came out of Easter. I'm talking about the resurrection of Christ, but all I see in front of me is empty chairs. Now, again, there's a lesson to that. There is a level of faith that is involved with that. I'm not necessarily speaking to that. So what I would suggest is say, get the camera off the platform, or you'll come off the platform. Get as close as possible to the camera so that when you speak in the lens, the only thing you see is the lens, that you do not allow everything else around you to be a distraction. So if you're in the church, if you're going to be inside the church, great. Get as close as you can to the camera. Remove the distance between you and get the empty chairs out the way. But I do recommend, I think this is an opportunity for us to kind of change the method, get creative, because again, Create Church is all about creating church wherever you are. So we're not restricted to the four walls of the building. We can create church in the living room, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the closet, in the car. A lot of you did drive-in services outside of your ministries. You can create church wherever you are. All right. So those are my 3 tips. Tip 1, again, was practice by talking to yourself. Tip 2 was increase your frequency and decrease your duration. Tip 3 was remove the distraction. If you implement these right now, I guarantee you it's going to help you reduce the level of anxiety that you are experiencing, and it's going to make your audience feel so much more comfortable and create a whole entirely new level of trust between you and your congregation. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. If you found this information beneficial, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Again, hit that bell notification so you'll get an alert anytime that we post new content. Definitely click the plus, click the thumbs up button, like it. Feel free to share and let us know down in the comments, what are some of the things that you're doing? I want to see what are some of the things, the methods, the tips, the tricks that you have that help you be more comfortable on camera, that ease some of the stress and anxiety that you may have been experiencing. And let me know if this information was helpful. Again, I love you. I want you to have a great and successful week in whatever it is that you're doing. And remember, church is wherever you are.